Hey, what's up there, YouTube friends? It's Grumpy Gamer Dad here, and this is Season 4, Episode 3 of Making the Nightmare. Basically, it's me building characters from The Nightmare Before Christmas to decorate my lawn for Halloween with. Last episode, we built the mayor. This episode, we're going to build Zero the Ghost Dog. Now, I already had a Zero the Ghost Dog from the first year I did this, and I've been kind of keeping him out every year. Okay, so for 3 years, this was Zero the Ghost Dog. This was a flying, or a hanging rather, prop that I got from Spirit of Halloween store. It suited the purposes. I didn't have to make one. He's got the pumpkin nose, he's got the face, but you can see he's been faded over time. His body was simply this piece of foam wrapped wire here that you can pose that came out of the top of the head here. So that's Zero 1.0. This year we have Zero 2.0. Same type of plastic store-bought prop. You've got the nose here with the jack-o'-lantern. His ears do flex a little bit. I bought this at Party City for $20. In fact, I paid the same amount for this one as I did for the old one, but the old one never did this. That's right. He is motion activated, and so when he sees motion, or the sensors pick up motion anyway, he will bark and his nose will light up. Now, he came with this plastic tubing because he is meant to be a ground stake. He's supposed to be staked to the ground and then have that ethereal look to him. That's not good enough for me. I'm going to make him fly this year. Now, most Halloween decorations aren't constructed very well, let's face it. And so his neck piece is just this simple piece of elastic that's been hot glued on. Unfortunately, when they hot glued it on there, it's not very symmetrical. One side is shorter than the other, so we have to fix that by peeling the elastic off. I'll reposition the material so it's even, and then we'll start to work on some sort of skeletal frame. It can't be too heavy because the motor I need to make him float is it's got a weight limit. As you can see here, I've completely taken off his decorative fabric and exposed his neck. This is what I was talking about with the Zero. When the fabric was glued onto the figure itself, it wasn't centered, so it was actually glued here and the face was going that way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to center the head so he's floating the right way. Zero's dog collar in air quotes, was this. A piece of ribbon that was hot glued on there as well. But we're going to fix this. Okay, so to make Zero's body, basically, if you can call it that, I took a piece of balsa. Balsa is very, very light wood. I use that because it's used in a lot of like model airplanes and rockets and such. And I took these like tongue depressors. They're actually craft sticks so that they're exactly even. Drilled a hole here, screwed them into place. This is the dorsal section, the spine basically, and then I have another one back here. The idea being that he will fly kind of like a marionette would be controlled. It's very hard to see, but I have some high strength fishing line here, and it holds the strength pretty well. I do, however, have to glue this in place. Okay, so this is all that we have right now of the Zero that I purchased. The fabric, the head has been separate from the rest of the body. So I've laid out my frame here, and then I'm going to take a needle. I'm going to thread the fishing line through here, through the fabric, so it's all attached. And there is the ethereal form of Zero. Unfortunately, I probably should have spray painted that frame white. This is the sound box. This is the frame. And then the head will connect on this end, which means I have to lose this zip tie, and I will replace it with another one. Every project has setbacks, and this one is no exception. The Mare, I had trouble with the motor. I've never really used these motors before, so it's a learning process. It's a trial by fire for me. So Zero, the idea was that he would be suspended from the strings like a marionette. The fatal flaw in that plan, however, was gravity. Once I put his head on the very, very light body, guess what happened? He face planted. time and time again. After thinking about it, I'm like, do I really want it suspended off the ground from above? How about if I made him fly from below? So I'm taking the similar concept. I'm going to use the same frame that I had. I'm going to attach a stick, much like he was intended to be, a stake. And so I'm going to attach a stick here. I can't take credit for this idea. This idea actually, the inspiration for it anyway, came from other YouTubers who have made head-popping monsters, zombies, skeletons, whatever. Basically a tombstone, and the monster pops its head out and comes around. I got some 2x4s here from the hardware store. I want it to be 14 inches long at the base. I'll have 2 holes drilled in here. Those will be where I mount it with rebar. I've laid down some foam board adhesive to the 2x4 here. I use that because some of the other chemicals will eat through foam. Now I'm just going to add the tombstone to the front of this. As you can see now, I've painted the 2x4s black so they'll kind of hide in the dark. And now that I've added the tombstone to the front of it, you won't see the mechanics behind here. Now, I actually bought some brand new motors from a company called MonsterGuts.com. These are pretty good. They're very versatile. They have removable screws, like this handle piece comes off. I removed this handle piece, I drilled through here, and I put a bolt that went through here into the stick that would be supporting Zero's head. So you can actually take these 4 screws out. I drilled a hole and then screwed it into the 2x4, and it's mounted that way. I reinforced the wooden shaft for his head with these. These are just duck straps that I got at the hardware store. I drilled them out, this one anyway, so I could put the bolt through it, and the other ones are mounted into the wood. It just gives it a little bit of support. So here I have the complete rig. Unfortunately, that white motor is going to stay white, and this is how it will operate. Zero's head will be on the top of the stick here as it's moving up and down, side to side. He's not going to be flying per se. He's going to be more floating, kind of haphazardly like he does in the movie. So let's take a quick peek behind the curtain, so to speak. I used one of those brackets, those duct brackets here between the shaft and the stick that's holding up his head and supporting his body. Here's that deer motor that I was talking about from MonsterGuts.com. If I had it to do all over again, I would have used a metal strap here instead of the vinyl, because the vinyl just gives a little too much, a little bit more than I really wanted to. But it's also flexible enough that it goes up and down with the stick as it's going. The actual mechanism that makes him bark is back here. It's crudely zip tied right now because I still have to finish the frame of his body. So here is the finished Zero. And of course, I made sure that the voice box still worked. Alright, here's a final look at that Zero, the ghost dog. He's all finished and ready to be displayed. Right now he's not moving because the motor's not plugged in. You see the tombstone here that I had used. Zero was one of my favorite characters, and while he was fun to build, the mechanics of getting him to float above that tombstone were very difficult for me. I hope you like the finished result. Please stay tuned because the next episode is a newer, greener Oogie Boogie, and I build Oogie Boogie's wheel and the crank.